They said the Kansas City Chiefs were done. They said the dynasty was crumbling. They said Patrick Mahomes couldn't save them this time. And then Brett Veach walked into the room and flipped the entire NFL upside down. Welcome back. You are watching the most important off-season story in the entire NFL right now. And if you think you already know what's happening in Kansas City, I promise you, by the end of this video, you are going to be shocked. Because what the Chiefs just pulled off in free agency is not just a roster rebuild. It is a declaration of war against every single team in the NFL. Stay with me, because we are going to break down every single move, every single signing, every single detail. And by the time this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why the Kansas City Chiefs are the most dangerous team in football heading into the 2026 season. Let's go. Chapter 1. The Empire Almost Fell. Before we talk about who they signed, we need to talk about where the Chiefs were just a few months ago. Because if you don't understand how bad it got, you cannot understand how incredible this comeback story truly is. Picture this. It is the middle of the 2025 NFL season. The Kansas City Chiefs, the team that won back-to-back-to-back Super Bowls, the team that Patrick Mahomes had turned into the greatest dynasty of the modern era, that team is sliding. And not just sliding a little, they are falling off a cliff. 9 games, 9 consecutive losses. A team that went 15-2 the year before was suddenly in free fall. The locker room was quiet, the fan base was nervous, and the critics were loud. Everyone was saying the same thing. The Chiefs are finished. The window is closing. The dynasty is over. And then it gets worse. Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback of his generation, the man with the golden arm, the guy who had carried this team through every impossible situation imaginable, he goes down with a torn ACL. Think about that for a second. The face of the franchise, the engine of the entire operation, gone for the foreseeable future. Kansas City entered the offseason in a situation that no championship team ever wants to be in. They were nearly $57 million over the salary cap. You heard that right. $57 million over. That is, by every measure, the worst salary cap situation in the entire league. Not second worst, not third worst, dead last. The Chiefs owed more money than they could spend on players they could no longer rely on, heading into a season without their starting quarterback. Every analyst in America was writing the same obituary. The dynasty is dead. Kansas City's run is over. Move on. But here's the thing about Brett Veach that most people forget. This man has been underestimated every single time he has ever sat down at a negotiating table. And every single time, he has found a way to win. So, what did he do when the empire was crumbling? He started building a new one. Chapter 2. The architect gets to work. Let's set the scene. It is early 2026. The new NFL league year is approaching. Brett Veach has an almost impossible task in front of him. He needs to clear nearly $60 million in cap space, rebuild an entire roster, find a backup quarterback to protect the franchise while Mahomes heals, and still somehow put together a team capable of competing for a Super Bowl. That is not a rebuild. That is a miracle. And the first thing Veach does, he makes a move that shocks the entire league. He trades Trent McDuffie, one of the best young cornerbacks in the entire NFL, a cornerstone of the Kansas City defense, gone, traded to the Los Angeles Rams. In the same week, Jalen Watson, another key defensive back, also heads to Los Angeles in a separate deal. The reaction around the league is immediate. Analysts are calling it a fire sale. Fans are devastated. Comment sections are going crazy. People are saying Brett Veach has officially given up on competing. But here's what those people missed. Because they were focused on what Kansas City lost, they completely ignored what Kansas City gained. With those trades, Veach suddenly had cap space, real cap space, and he had extra draft picks, and most importantly, he had flexibility. He had the freedom to go out into free agency and make moves that no other team could afford to make. He turned the worst salary cap situation in the NFL into one of the top 15 best in a matter of weeks without a single snap being played. That right there is why Brett Veach is one of the best general managers in football. But the real fireworks, they were just about to begin. Chapter 3, signing number 1, the Super Bowl mystery Valerie comes to Kansas City. I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now and really pay attention to this next part, because what I'm about to tell you is one of the most significant free agent signings in Kansas City Chiefs history. Kenneth Walker III. If that name does not immediately give you chills, let me explain why it should. Kenneth Walker III is the reigning Super Bowl most valuable player. He is not just a good running back. He is not just a solid piece to add to the offense. He is the most explosive running back to enter free agency in years. And the Kansas City Chiefs just signed him to a 3-year contract worth $43 million, with nearly $29 million fully guaranteed. Let that sink in. The Super Bowl mystery Valerie comes to Kansas City. Now here's why this signing is so much more than just adding a talented player. The Chiefs have been desperately, painfully searching for a running back who can create explosions, a back who can take one carry and turn it into 6 points before the defense even blinks, a back who makes defenders miss not once, not twice, but over and over again on the same play. Last season, Kenneth Walker forced a missed tackle on almost 30% of his touches, 30.2% to be exact. That was the 3rd highest rate in the entire NFL among running backs with at least 150 touches. Think about what that means. On almost 1 out of every 3 times he touched the ball, a defender had him dead to rights and simply couldn't bring him down. That is not just talent, that is supernatural. And he's going to be running the ball behind one of the most dominant offensive lines in football. Trey Smith at right guard, Creed Humphrey at center, Kingsley Sumatai at left guard, 3 of the most physical, powerful blockers in the league, all opening holes for Kenneth Walker. The Chiefs are confident, not hopeful, confident. They believe Walker is going to generate the kind of explosive runs that this offense has been missing, the kind of plays that completely change a game, the kind of plays that you remember for years after the final whistle. And when you think about what this does for Patrick Mahomes when he returns, it's almost unfair. Defenses are already terrified of Mahomes in the passing game. Now they have to worry about a man who cannot be tackled running the ball every drive. The read option game alone is going to be a nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators. Kenneth Walker III, signing number 1, and already one of the best moves in the entire 2026 free agency period, not just for Kansas City, but for the whole league. Chapter 4, signing number 2, the legend stays home. Okay, before we get to the next signing, I need you to ask you something. What is the most important position on an NFL football field besides quarterback? Some people say pass rusher. Some people say offensive tackle. Some people say cornerback. But in Kansas City, for the last decade, the answer has always been tight end. Because for the last decade, the Kansas City Chiefs have had the greatest tight end who has ever played the game of football, Travis Kelce. He's back for a 14th season. 1 more year, 1 more shot at greatness. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Travis Kelce is 36 years old. The days of him being the most dominant player on the field every week, those days might be behind him. And that's a fair conversation to have. But here's what you need to understand about what Travis Kelce brings to this offense that goes way beyond raw statistics. Last season, and remember, this was a season where the offense was struggling, where the team lost 9 straight games. Travis Kelce led the entire team in targets, 108. He led the team in receptions with 76. He led the team in receiving yards with 851. He led the team in touchdowns with 5, and he led the team in receiving first downs with 45. On a struggling offense, on a team that was in free fall, Travis Kelce was still the most productive player in the passing game by a mile. But here's the real reason why signing Kelsey back is so critical, and this is the part that the statistics cannot capture. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have a connection that is unlike anything else in professional football. It's not just chemistry, it's not just timing, it's something deeper than that. It's an understanding, a language between two people who have played together so long that words are almost unnecessary. When Mahomes comes back from injury, and he will come back because Patrick Mahomes always comes back, the first face he's going to see in that huddle that makes him feel completely at home is Travis Kelce. The comfort level, the trust, the ability to improvise, to throw off-script passes to a guy who is somehow exactly where you need him to be, that is invaluable. And here's the part that is easy to miss. Having Travis Kelce on the field doesn't just help the offense because of what Kelce himself does. It him every single play. And that extra attention opens up windows for Kenneth Walker. It opens up space for Xavier Worthy to burn down the sideline. It creates one-on-one matchups all over the field. Travis Kelce does not just play football, he creates football. He creates space and opportunity for everyone around him just by existing on the field. Signing number 2, the legend stays home, and Kansas City gets their offensive cornerstone back for one more run at glory. Chapter 5, the defensive crisis and how Veach solved it. Now here is where the story gets really interesting, because signing Walker and Kelce is exciting. Those are names that make headlines. Those are names that sell jerseys. But if you really want to understand why the Kansas City Chiefs are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, you need to understand what happened to their defense. And you need to understand the 2 signings that Brett Veach made to fix it. Because this is where most people lose the thread. Everyone is talking about the offense, but in the NFL, you cannot win a championship with just an offense. Defense wins championships. Everyone knows that saying. And the Chiefs needed to rebuild their defense from the ground up. After losing McDuffie and Watson in the defensive backfield, 2 of their best corners, and with safety Brian Cook also gone, the Chiefs' secondary was in chaos. And a defense without a strong secondary in today's pass-happy NFL is like a house built on sand. It might look fine from the outside, but one good storm and the whole thing falls apart. Brett Veach needed answers, fast. Chapter 6, signing number 3, the safety net. The first defensive answer Veach found came from Baltimore. Geno Gilman, safety, former Baltimore Raven, 28 years old, and he just signed with the Kansas City Chiefs on a 3-year deal worth $24.75 million with $15 million guaranteed. Now let me tell you why this signing is so much more important than the dollar amount suggests. The Kansas City Chiefs secondary had just lost 3 major pieces in less than a week: Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and Brian Cook, 3 key contributors to a defense that was already struggling. The back end of the defense was exposed, and in the NFL, when your secondary is exposed, good quarterbacks eat you alive. Geno Gilman is not just a body to fill a gap. He is a veteran. He is a leader. He is a player who has played meaningful snaps in big games and not flinched. He brings the kind of stability that a young secondary desperately needs, the kind of presence in the film room and on the practice field that raises the level of everyone around him. Think of it this way. Imagine you are building a house. You have a great foundation and great walls, but the roof has big holes in it. Everything inside is exposed. Every rainstorm is a crisis. Geno Gilman is the team putting a new solid roof on that house. He is not the flashiest part of the structure, but without him, everything underneath is at risk. In a season where the Chiefs are going to be leaning on a defense to carry them while Mahomes recovers from his ACL, having a veteran presence like Gilman anchoring the secondary could be the difference between an early playoff exit and a deep run. Signing number 3, the defense gets a backbone, and the Chiefs get the stability they so desperately needed at the back end. Chapter 7, the corner who keeps it tight.
But one safety was not enough to fix the secondary. The Chiefs still had a massive hole at cornerback. And when you have holes at cornerback in the modern NFL, smart quarterbacks will find those holes every single time. So Veach went back to work. He found his next answer in Miami. Eli Apple. Wait, actually, let me correct that. The corner who came in was Sauce Gardner. No, wait, let me get this exactly right. The Chiefs signed cornerback Kader Kohou from the Miami Dolphins, a one-year deal, 27 years old, still very much in the prime of his career. Now, Kohou is not a household name the way some of the other players on this list are. He is not the kind of cornerback whose name you see on the back of jerseys everywhere. But here is what Kohou is, and this is the part that matters. He is dependable. He is capable. He is a player with prime years left in the tank who can go out and compete at a high level on every single snap. In a season where the Chiefs are going to be leaning on a defense to carry them while Mahomes recovers from his ACL, having a veteran presence like Kohou in providing that competent, reliable presence on the outside is absolutely critical. He is the kind of player who doesn't make the highlights for the wrong reasons. He doesn't get toasted on a deep ball and end up as a clip on social media for the rest of the week. He comes in, does his job, and keeps the offense on the right side of the field. For a team that is trying to hold the defense together while rebuilding around Mahomes' return, Kohou is exactly the kind of low-risk, high-floor addition that makes a roster function. He raises the floor. He provides depth. He gives the defensive backs room to grow. Signing number 4. The cornerback spot gets shored up. The secondary has a pulse again, and the Chiefs are starting to look like a real team, not a patchwork of leftovers held together with tape. Now we get to the signing that might be the most underrated move of this entire offseason, the one that barely made a ripple in the national media, the one that the average football fan probably scrolled right past on their timeline. But inside the Kansas City building, this one matters a lot. Levi Tonga, defensive tackle, signed from the New England Patriots. Now before you click away, stay with me, because understanding why this signing is so much more important than the dollar amount suggests. The Kansas City Chiefs defensive line still had a real hole in it, in particular a defensive tackle behind Chris Jones. In the NFL, you can't win a defense without depth on the interior. Chris Jones is the most dominant interior defensive lineman in the entire NFL. When Chris Jones is on the field and healthy, he is single-handedly capable of wrecking offensive game plans. He is the kind of player that teams game plan for specifically. They bring in extra tight ends to chip him. They use double teams. They run plays away from him. That's how disruptive Chris Jones is. But here's the problem. What happens when Chris Jones needs a breather? What happens on 3rd and short when the offense knows Jones is on the sideline and they can just run the ball straight up the middle? Before this signing, the answer was not great. The depth behind Jones was thin, very thin. There was a young player behind him who had just torn his ACL. That was basically it. Levi Tonga changes that. Coming off a career year with the Patriots, Tonga produced 24 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 pass deflections in just 14 games. He is a run stuffer, a gap plugger, the kind of interior lineman who gives Chris Jones the ability to play with fresh legs because he knows the defense doesn't fall apart when he takes a break. And what did Chris Jones himself say when the signing was announced? He went on his social media account and wrote 4 words: Tonga is a dog. When the best player on your defense goes out of his way to publicly celebrate a new teammate, that tells you everything you need to know. Jones knows what Tonga brings. Jones has been in the league long enough to understand exactly what a quality backup at his position means for his own performance and for the defense as a whole. Signing number 5. The middle of the defense gets reinforced. Chris Jones gets a running mate, and the Kansas City defensive line suddenly looks a lot more dangerous than it did 3 weeks ago. Chapter 10. The bonus move. Mahomes gets a backup. Okay, I said 5 signings, and we covered 5 incredible signings, but I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention one more move that Brett Veach made, because it might end up being the most important move of the entire offseason. March 16th, Veach makes a trade that nobody saw coming. The Kansas City Chiefs acquired Justin Fields from the Jets for a 6th-round draft pick in 2027. Justin Fields, the dual-threat quarterback, who at his best is capable of making plays that literally no other quarterback in the NFL can make. The kind of player who can scramble out of a broken play, extended for 10 seconds, and still find an open receiver downfield for a big gain. The kind of player that defensive coordinators have nightmares about. And here's the context. Mahomes is recovering from a torn ACL. Nobody knows exactly when he'll be back. Maybe early in the season, maybe midway through the season. Maybe the Chiefs need to protect him and not rush him back. Whatever the timeline, Kansas City needs a quarterback who can win football games right now while Mahomes heals. Every other option at backup quarterback had already been taken off the board. Tyler Huntley, gone. Gardner Minshew, signed with the Arizona Cardinals. The market for competent backup quarterbacks dried up fast, and the Chiefs were staring at a very thin pool of options. And then Veach got Justin Fields for essentially a throwaway draft pick. Think about the value of that trade. You're getting a quarterback who has shown flashes of genuine brilliance, a player who can move the football and keep defenses honest for a 6th-round pick that most teams wouldn't even notice leaving their draft board. That's a heist. That's Brett Veach operating at the highest level of his craft. The Chiefs now have a Plan A, Patrick Mahomes, when healthy, and a Plan B that most teams would love to have as their Plan A, Justin Fields, capable of winning football.
All right, let us zoom out for a second. Let us take a breath and let us look at the full picture of what Brett Veach has assembled in Kansas City. You have Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback of his generation, who is going to be hungry, motivated, and more dangerous than ever when he returns from injury. There is nothing quite like watching a quarterback who has had time to sit, study, heal, and come back with something to prove. You have Travis Kelce, the greatest tight end in NFL history, back for one more season, ready to be the safety blanket and the chess piece that stretches every defense on the planet. You have Kenneth Walker III, the reigning Super Bowl MVP running back, bringing an explosion and a missed tackle rate that makes offensive coordinators salivate when they watch his film. You have Geno Gilman anchoring a secondary that desperately needed a veteran presence. You have Kader Kohou providing depth and reliability at cornerback. You have Levi Tonga giving Chris Jones the support he needs to keep the defensive line dominant week after week. You have Justin Fields ready to lead this offense while Mahomes continues his recovery, giving this team a genuinely dangerous option at quarterback right now. And underneath all of it, you have Brett Veach, the architect, the man who turned a $57 million cap crisis into a top 15 cap situation in weeks. The man who made trades and signings that the national media called panic moves, and then watched as those moves started clicking into place one by one. And you have Andy Reid, the greatest offensive mind in the history of the sport. The coach who has never, not once, failed to find creative ways to put his players in positions to win. Give Andy Reid Kenneth Walker III, give Andy Reid Travis Kelce, give him Patrick Mahomes even on a limited basis, and then watch what happens. Because Andy Reid with weapons is like handing a master painter a brand new canvas and telling him to go wild. This team is not just trying to get back to respectability. They are not just trying to make the playoffs. They are not just trying to win a division title. The Kansas City Chiefs are built to win a Super Bowl, and anyone who tells you otherwise has not been paying close enough attention. Chapter 11, The Road Ahead, What Stands in Their Way. Now, I am not going to sit here and tell you the road is going to be easy, because it is not. The AFC is brutal right now, and the Chiefs have genuine challenges to overcome.
The biggest question mark, and everyone knows it, is the timeline for Patrick Mahomes. A torn ACL is not a small injury. It is the kind of injury that takes a full year of dedication, rehab, and patience to come back from at full strength. The Chiefs need to manage Mahomes carefully. They need to make sure that when he does return, he is not just available, he is healthy, he is confident, he is the version of Mahomes who makes impossible plays look easy. If Justin Fields can hold things together early in the season, if he can keep the Chiefs competitive, win some games, keep the locker room believing, then the moment Mahomes walks back through that tunnel at Arrowhead Stadium, this team becomes an immediate championship contender because the pieces are there, the talent is there, the coaching staff is there. The secondary is still a work in progress. Losing Trent McDuffie hurts. There is no way to spin that and make it sound like anything other than a major loss. McDuffie was one of the best young corners in football, and his presence is going to be felt, or rather his absence is going to be felt throughout the season. Kohu and Gilman are solid additions, but they are not McDuffie. The defense needs young players to step up. They need development from the players they already have. And the wide receiver room is still a question. Xavier Worthy is coming off shoulder surgery. Rashee Rice's immediate future has uncertainty around it. The Chiefs need receivers to stay healthy and produce consistently, and that has been a challenge for this roster over the last couple of seasons. These are real challenges. They are not small. They are not problems that get solved with one good day of practice. But here is what I know about the Kansas City Chiefs. This franchise has been counted out before. This franchise has faced adversity before. And this franchise, with Andy Reid on the sideline and Patrick Mahomes in the building, finds a way, over and over and over again. Chapter 13, the final word. So here is where we land. The Kansas City Chiefs were supposed to be finished. The critics said so. The numbers said so. The cap situation said so. The injuries said so. 9 consecutive losses said so. And then Brett Veach said no. Kenneth Walker III says no. Travis Kelce says no. Patrick Mahomes, rehabbing every single day with fire in his eyes, says absolutely not. The Chiefs are back. The dynasty might not be dead, and the 2026 NFL season is going to be one of the most fascinating and unpredictable seasons in recent memory, with Kansas City right in the center of it all. If you made it this far, I want to hear from you. Do you think the Chiefs can win the Super Bowl this season? Does Kenneth Walker give them enough firepower? Can Justin Fields keep them afloat while Mahomes heals? Drop your prediction in the comments right now. I read every single one. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell, because the Chiefs are going to be making moves all the way up to training camp, and you do not want to miss a single second of this story. This dynasty is not over, not even close. Kansas City is coming, and the rest of the NFL had better be ready.